Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So, in Drg Drashya Viveka, we have completed 6 kinds of samadhis. Actually, samadhis cannot be of 6 types, but 6 different ways, methods are shown by which we can focus our mind upon Atma or upon the truth. When we are outside with the external world, then how to do that? A method is shown. Then when we are with ourselves, then how to focus the mind. So different ways and different methods are shown to focus the mind. Ultimate goal of all this samadhis is abidance in the self, which is nirvikalpa samadhi. And as we have discussed, savikalpa leads to nirvikalpa. Savikalpa, the practice of savikalpa, culminates into nirvikalpa if done properly. Properly in the sense, if one gains expertise of focusing or concentrating the mind. And mind is not something which you can force to become quiet. And we are not even aiming at that. We want to see the reality. And when mind also comes to know what its reality is, then it merges. It ceases to vacillate. Otherwise, mind continues to vacillate. And that vacillation shows restlessness. Restlessness shows ignorance. And that is why there is disquiet. But when mind has reached, has understood what its reality is, then it happily abides. So this is what we are aiming at. Ultimate goal is knowledge. So the text has discussed all those things up to verse number 29. So the samadhis began from verse number 23. Then up to verse number 29. So from beginning from 23 to 29 is the discussion of samadhis. And then at the end of it, the text, the author said in verse number 30, what is the result of this? Dehabhimane galite vignyate paramatmane yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadayah. The result of, the consequence of this samadhis, when these samadhis are practiced for a long time, then the knowledge becomes spontaneous. Spontaneous means now there is no effort. There is no effort to remind yourself as to who you are, all the effort has now come to an end. And this is expressed in these words, Dehabhimane Galite, when the identification with the body-mind complex, when the identification is melted, Galite means when it is melted, it no more is there. Just as the iceberg, in spite of being in the water, in spite of being in the ocean, it continues to pose its own existence, its own identity as ice, even though reality is water, reality is H2O, reality is ocean, but still it continues to have its own identity as iceberg or glacier, etc. But when it melts, then that separate identity also no more remains. So far that had frozen, some part of the water had frozen, and that gave, as it were, a new identity to the water itself. In some such fashion, when ego, when ahankara comes to know that it is false, when the self comes to know that I am not this ego, I am not this ahankara, I am not this body-mind complex, I am not this upadhi, then identification with that now melts. Then what happens? Vijnate Paramatmane. When will this identification go? When you know the truth, Paramatmane, Vijnate, when it is known clearly, when there is no doubt about it, that my reality is Paramatma, Brahman. Now what happens? Now the author says, Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra samadayah. When that abhimana, when that identification shithili bhute, when it is now loosened because of the knowledge, because of the force of knowledge, when it loses gradually, it doesn't happen in one stroke, it takes its own time. Then what happens? Now you come to know, the person comes to know that he is nothing but asti bhati priyam. The reality is nothing but consciousness, existence, which is of the nature of ananda. Then what happens? Now yatra yatra manoyati. Now if the mind goes somewhere, this knowledge is formed. Now if the mind happens to think of an object, it happens to think of a person, it happens to think of a place, but what that place is, what is that object which the mind is thinking about? What is it? Now he comes to know that that person or that object is non-separate from me. Now there is no distance, no separation, because reality is one without a second. It is non-dual. There is no iota of duality in that. So when you come to know this, then wherever the mind goes, it sees different names and forms. But in and through those names and forms is what? Is nothing but Brahman. Brahman comes or appears in different names and forms. Once you can penetrate through this reality, when you come to know this, when you know that the wearer in all the costumes is one only, is same Paramatma, which is here. The Paramatma here is Paramatma there. Yes, the name and form here is different. The name and form there may be different, but the underlying reality is the same. Just as we can give the example of an actor who plays double role, triple role. Same actor appears in 2-3 roles in a movie. There are just 3-4 characters, and this person plays the role of 3 characters. In all those 3 characters is just one actor. At one place there was a movie like this, one Hindi movie, where an actor was came in the role of father. The same actor came in the role of a son, same father's son, and the same actor appeared in the role of the grandson also. So, the roles are different, costumes are different, script is different in all those 3 roles, but the one who is playing that is the same. In the same manner, now you come to know, because now what happens, dehabhimane galite. Now so far the identification was with one body, but that having gone, now the person has come to know that I am not confined to this one body. I am everywhere. I am everything. This one, the limit of the body may be just this much. There may be a limit to the body. There is a boundary for the body. But what is the boundary of consciousness? What is the boundary of Sat or Paramatma or Brahman? No boundary. It is boundless. It is everywhere. We can say that in Brahman are all the upadhis, are all names and forms. Once you can see this, then what happens? Wherever the mind goes, mind will see the same Brahman, the same reality. Now, nothing becomes an obstacle for the mind. So far, if the mind thought of a person, if the mind so far thought of a person, then he tried, when the sadhana was going on, when the knowledge was not firm, then there was a time when you thought of a person whom you liked, for whom there is attachment, then that sadhaka tried to withdraw the mind from that person. But now, because so far asakti was there, attachment was there, he was a given person with a given name and form related to that other person. But now I am everything. Now there is no relationship only with that person. In fact, now you are related to yourself. And in one's own self, there cannot be relationship to speak of. Because everywhere you are, you appreciate yourself, continue the vyavahara, but now mind is not afraid of attachment or aversion. That is why in Ishavasya Upanishad it is said that when one comes to know this oneness, tatra ko mohaha kashokah ekatvam anupashyatah. When you see this oneness, where is shoka? Where is moha? Where is raga? Where is dvesha? All of this has disappeared. In the wake of dehabhimane galite, vijnate paramatmani. So now the mind is there as as an instrument, as an upadhi, mind is very much there. But ignorance having gone from that mind, mind is now no more a problem. It does what it has to do. Functional, it remains functional. Mind remains functional. Because if the mind is not there, how will you carry out your vyavahara? How will you think? How will you cognize? All of that will not be possible without the mind. So mind is there. It does its function. It does what it has to do. But that ignorance having gone from that is now no more a problem. In that sense it is said, yatra yatra manoyati. Wherever the mind goes, tatra samadhi. Tatra samadayah. Tatra ukta lakshanaha षड्भि samadayah swayameva bhavanti. Wherever the mind goes. So far, methods were employed to withdraw the mind from the objects and bring it back to the self. This was done so far, deliberately. But now it is not needed. Because now this object is looked upon as Atma. There is no attachment or aversion for this. I use this object, all right. But my mind does not get attached to this or doesn't hate it, uses it. Plus sees this object as its own self. Everywhere in different names and forms is the same Atma. So this is now Sahaja Samadhi. This is called Sahaja. Now you need not sit and practice Samadhi. That phase is gone. That phase is over. Why? Because now Sthita Prajnata is there. Lord Krishna talks about Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna means a wise man whose knowledge is abiding. Spontaneously he abides in the self, wherever he may be, whatever he may be doing, however he is always in the self. Whether he is in the battlefield, whether he is at home, whether he is in a market, or whatever he is doing, Lord Krishna, to give the example of Lord Krishna himself, even in the midst of the battlefield, he is always composed. There is no disturbance on his face. What is this? This is nothing but Sthita Prajnata. Same thing happens with the wise man or with the person who has practiced the samadhis which we have discussed. So now wherever his mind goes, there is spontaneity. Mind spontaneously abides in Brahman. So now life becomes a play. He does whatever is to be done. He interacts, he may interact, he may not interact. Depends. But one thing is certain. What is certain? That he is Brahman in Brahman. That never goes. So, this is what is said in this verse number 30. Then, the result of the knowledge is again shown in verse number 31. Let us read that. Vidyate hridaya krantihi छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. So now, paravara darshana phala pradarshiniim shrutimeva patati. So now Shruti Now in this verse, now in verse number 31, author quotes, this verse number 31 is taken verbatim from Mundak Upanishad. Plus it occurs in Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad also. We had mentioned earlier that Drg Drashya Viveka, in this text there are many verses which appear in Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. So this verse is taken verbatim from Mundak and from Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. And this verse very beautifully shows the result of knowledge. When can you say that knowledge is occurred? So here is tasmin drishte paravare. Here there is usage of Sati Saptami. Sati Saptami means case of usage of seventh case. But in which sense? In the sense that when this happens, then this happens. So it says tasmin drishte paravare. When para and avara is seen. When seen means not seeing with the eyes, here in the mind's eye. When you cognize, when you come to know what? Identity of para and avara. Then what happens? I will first translate the verse and then explain. When this para and avara is seen, is understood. Para means superior. 2-3 meanings are given of para and avara. We can quickly say that para means superior and avara means inferior. In that sense, para is Brahman and avara is Atma. Then para can also mean Ishvara, avara can means Jivatma. Para can also mean cause, Karanam, and avara can means Karyam. So these are all the different meanings of para and avara. So aikya of this, oneness of this, when this is seen, when you see the total identity, then what happens? Then vidyate hrudaya grantihi. All the knots of the heart are cut asunder. All the grantihi, complexes, knots, we will talk about that, are cut asunder. Chidyante sarva samshayaha. All the doubts gets dispelled. All the doubts, all the vagueness that may exist with reference to knowledge, with reference to Brahman. There may be, in case there are some doubts, some vagueness, but if that exists, then that much abidance will be less. You should be totally clear, total understanding. No doubt should be there. Doubt regarding, we will see whether Brahman is there or not, whether I am there or not, some such doubts. So if you are not 100% clear, then mind will continue to pose questions. Doubts will be there, and as long as they are there, there won't be quietude. Continuously something or the other will provoke the mind, and to that extent mind will not be quiet. So all the samshayas, all the doubts, all the vagueness goes. Plus what else happens? Asya karmani kshiyante, asya karmani cha kshiyante. All the actions of this person also get destroyed. All the actions get destroyed. When? When he sees the oneness of para and avara. When he, in other words, when he comes to know the Jiva Brahma Aikya. Jivo Brahmaivana Aparaha. Jiva is totally non-separate from Brahman. Effect called creation is non-separate from Brahman. So one has to know this para and avara, that they are one. There is no duality. This having known, then this happens. What happens? All the knots of the heart are cut asunder, doubts are dispelled, and all his actions also get destroyed. Kshiyante asya karmani. Karmani is used in plural, which means there are different sets of karmas, actions. We will see that. But first we will see Vidyante Hrudaya Grantihi. When he comes to know para and avara. Para means what? So here it is said that Sachidananda Lakshanaha Yaha Paramatma Sa Eva Parashabdena Uchyate. Para means Sachidananda Lakshana of Paramatma. Paramatma, the absolute reality, which is of the nature of Sat, Chit and Ananda. This is the Paramarthic reality, the absolute reality. And you know, when you come to know that I am that, this para is not somewhere there. This Sachidananda, which is here suggested or indicated by the word para, paraha, is now understood not as something as the reality which is somewhere else, and is also understood that I don't have to become that. I am already that. Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. Mundaka Upanishad says, one who knows Brahman becomes Brahman. There is no becoming, really speaking. There is only knowing. And when can there be knowing and becoming? You know and you become, which is not otherwise true. You know a thing, that doesn't mean you become a thing. You have to work for it, and then you become a doctor, then you become an engineer, then you become a professor. But here you know it, oh Brahman is this, and you became. Which means I was already that, but I didn't know it. Ignorance was something which separated me from Brahman. I was always Brahman, but I did not know. Moment I came to know, I claimed it. There is no real claiming, no real reaching, no real becoming. Then what? Only dispelling of ignorance. The ignorance that I am not Brahman. I am not that paraha reality. I have to become, I have to reach. No such thing. I now come to know I am already that. Which means that so far I took this body to be I. Now I know I am not only this much. I am everything plus I transcend everything. See, reality is both immanent, means sarvavyapi, plus it is transcending everything. Sarvatitaha. Understood? So, when this is known, paraha, when this part is known, then what happens? This is called parashabdena. So, you know that I am that Paraha reality. Then what is Avaraha? So it is said here that Pratyak Chinmatra Rupaha Sakshyakyah yo Jivatma Sa eva Avara Shabdena Uchyate. The one which is confined to this body, which means which obtains in this body, yes, Atma obtains here, but so far it is thought that it is only here. The consciousness which is identified with a given body, given subtle body, given gross body is Jivaha, which means conditioned Jiva. Just as the pot, we say about the space that this is pot space. What is this pot space? Pot space means space conditioned by pot. Space is all pervasive, but when a pot is placed when pot is placed here, then it appears as it were pot is confined, or a space is confined to these four walls of the pot. Space, which is all pervasive, thinks that I am only pot space. That will be Jiva. When the Jiva comes to know, there's a pot space, when it comes to know that, oh my God, I am not confined to this space. I am not confined to this pot. I am much more. In fact, I have nothing to do with the pot. I don't really even touch the pot. Then what? It came that Para Avara became one. Avara is no more different from Para. Pot space is the same as the space. Space remains space only, but its identification with a pot is removed. Understood? So, this is Para Avara. Then, so what is the meaning of Paravara? Pratyak Abhinnaha Paramatma. Pratyak Abhinnaha Paramatma. Paramatma is non-separate from Pratyak. Pratyak means the self here, the innermost self here is none but Paramatma. There is nothing more to know than this. So when this is known, the oneness between, in short, oneness of Jiva and Brahma, Jagat and Brahman, Ishwar and Brahman. When the oneness of this is known, then no more is Jiva separate from Brahman, no more is Jagat separate from Brahman, no more is Ishvara different from Brahman. These three are upadhis. Jiva is one upadhi, Jagat is another upadhi, Ishvara is third upadhi, supposing. But in and through all this is the same consciousness. Now, the knowledge is that I am in and through all these three, plus I am beyond this. Whether these three upadhis are there or not, I am there. Understood? This is knowledge. There is nothing more to know than this. This is the peak, culmination of knowledge. So when this happens, keep this in mind. This is the goal where we have to reach. But tell me, is it real reaching? Where real traveling is involved? When you travel, you go from one place to another. real traveling, real crossing of the distance is involved. Is that so here? No. This is traveling from, if at all, it is traveling from, yes, ignorance to knowledge. In fact, ignorance gives way to knowledge. When you study the Shastras, when you study at the feet of the teacher, then slowly ignorance melts. Shitilikaranam happens. Avasadhanam happens. And then you gain your own self in terms of knowledge. Ignorance goes. So, when this happens, now what? Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi. First thing that happens first means now no more ignorance is there. And ignorance not being there, what is the meaning of that? So that is given here. Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. All the knots of the heart are cut asunder, which means that no more are there any complexes. So far, the biggest complex was complex of Atma, complex that Satchidananda Atma suffered from was that I am Ahankara. This is the mother of all the complexes. What? That I am Ahankara. I am in ego. I am so and so, such and such. This was the biggest complex. From this arose thousands and thousands of complexes. But this having gone, all the complexes which were born because of this also disappear. In that sense, it is said, all the knots of the heart are destroyed. What is this knot? It is given here. Rud iti ahankaraha ayam iti aparoksha rupaha sakshi. So far what happened? That ayam means Atma and Rud means Ahankara. Subtle body was one thing, Atma is another. But Atma, Sakshi, took itself to be this Ahankara, took itself to be this limited body, took itself to be this ego. So, what happened? There was combination or unholy combination or wedlock between Atma and Ahankara. Rut means Ahankara and Ayam means Atma. This two came together, which is not possible. Which, as I said, Bhashyakara explains this in Adhyasa Bhashya. He says this is not possible. That which is you and that which is I, that which is the object of you and that which is the object of I, Yushmat Asmat Pratyaya Gocharayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tamah Prakashavat Viruddha Swabhavayoho. These two cannot ever come together. Just as this object called clip is you for me and I am I. Now, that which is I cannot become this. So, I cannot take this object as I. Can it happen? No. Plus, I-ness cannot be superimposed upon this. So, this cannot be mistaken for I and I cannot be mistaken for this. Simple. Why? Because these two are different. What I see, what is object for me, cannot be mistaken as I. But that is what has happened in our life. Mithya bhavitum, this is not possible, but still this has happened. And once this Atma, consciousness, Satchidananda, thinks that it is this small body, then what happens? And that body is of woman, that body may be of man, that body may be of an old man, and then there are attributes in that, and body is in every way limited. So now Atma takes itself to be limited. The dharma of that body is superimposed here. Anyonya tadatmya is there, which we have already seen in the earlier verses. And from this arises multiple complexes. I am small, I am fat, I am lean, I am good, I am bad, I am successful, I am failure. All of these are complexes, which gives lot of pain. Moment you take yourself to be the body, however great that may be, but still it is limited. In every way it is limited. It is time bound, it is space bound, it is objectivity bound, bound. And you superimpose that upon yourself and then suffer. See what has happened. First you brand yourself as limited, as body, and then try to come out of it. Why did you brand yourself that way? Ignorance does that. So ignorance brings this two together, which is not possible. Light and darkness can never come together. But that is what has happened. So Rut is Ahankara and Ayam is Atma. Anyonya tadatmyena tayoho ubayoho api swarupam militva. You combined this two. When you say sthuloham, when you say I am fat, I am fat. That I, in this one sentence, there are two things. Which two things? You and I are combined. I means I am fat. That I belongs to Atma. Fatness belongs to body. We combined it. And the result is sthuloham, I am fat. When you say I am karta, again, I am doer. I belongs to Atma. Doership is in antakarana, is in buddhi. We brought it together. I is there. Kartrutva is also there. Yes, we don't deny that. They are there, but not in one locus. Kartrutva belongs somewhere else. I belongs somewhere else. I belongs here. Kartrutva belongs in the mind. We brought it together in our ignorance. I am karta. And then we suffer what? I committed sin. I did a good action. Merit, demerit. First I say I did good actions and then I think that I will get good result. I committed a sin and then I am afraid I will have to pay for it. Kimaham sadhuna karavam. Kimaham papam karavam iti. These are all the regrets in the mind. They say that at the end of the life, person suffers. Why did I commit certain sins? Because now is the time to depart. And then account will be taken. I will have to answer for everything. So why did I commit sins? Why did I not do good actions? But where did all this arose from? From where? I first branded myself as Karta, which belongs in the Antakarana, which belongs in the Buddhi. That which belongs there is brought here, which is not possible, and then samsara begins. Samsara is this. Samsara doesn't mean wife. Samsara doesn't mean husband. Samsara doesn't mean having a job, having children. No. Samsara doesn't mean having responsibilities. None of this is samsara. Samsara is nothing but taking myself to be the body, imposing the dharmas of the body, mind, intellect, complex upon I, and imposing consciousness upon the body. Body which is jadam is taken to be conscious because I gave it that consciousness to the body. This begets thousands of complexes. Now, having come to know what? Para Avara is one. Jiva Brahma, Jiva is not my nature. That is not my reality. It was mithya. I have always been Brahman, continue to be Brahman. Brahman, which is my reality, remains unscathed at. Even though I superimposed everything, it is untouched. When this is known, what happens? All the superimpositions and this combination which was done of Rud and Ayam goes. One thing. Then what? All the doubts are dispelled. Sarva samshayaha chidyante. All the doubts may be there. You know, when the knowledge is not firm, has not become very entrenched, you have not so far worked that much for it, abidance is not there, then there can be doubts like what? Paramarthatah mamaiva brahmatvam astivanava. Can I be Brahman in reality? How can I be Brahman? Brahman is limitless, Bruhatvad Brahman, and I am only here. Is Shastra taking me for a ride? Maybe I am being fooled. When it is said, you are Brahman, stop kidding. Are you kidding? No, we are not. But this doubts may be there. So it is said, Brahmatvepi tadruk rupatvam mama sakshat krutam vanava. Even if I am Brahman, will I be able to know that? Sakshat krutepi itaha param mamapi karta. Then will I, having known, yes, I am Brahman, but then whether now my kartavya remains or not, should I perform actions or not? So many doubts are there. Whether I will become Jivan Mukta or not, whether after death, when the body will fall off, even after knowing Brahman, will I have to be born again or not? Who knows? They are saying that once you come to know, there is you don't have to be born again, because Atma is already unborn and you come to know that. But who knows? Maybe I have to be born again. This kind of doubts are there. These doubts show that clarity is not there. Clarity is the name of the game. Things should be clear. There is no room for doubts over there. When Brahman is I, Brahman is unborn, undying, nirvikaraha. Where is the question of becoming and being born and being done? No such thing. But when this happens, it is called, when para and avara is one, then all the doubts are dispelled. and all his actions, kshiyante cha asya karmani. All the actions are also destroyed. Now see, there are three kinds of actions in Jiva's account. One is sanchita, another one is agami, and third one is prarabdha. Let me explain. Sanchita karma means all the actions which are done by this person, by this Jiva, from beginningless time, because this ignorance has been there for a long time. We cannot even pinpoint that it began at that time. So it has been there from beginningless time, anadi kalaha. From that time onwards, he has been performing actions in each and every birth. So all those actions are stored in his account. There are countless karmas performed in different births. Now he comes to know that I am Brahman. And what is this Brahman? A karta. Understand this very well. The reality of the Atma or self is this, that there is no action in that. There is no phenomenon called action, karma in Atma. Action can be performed only when kartrutva is there. One thing. Second thing, only when desire is there. Plus, you should have limbs for performing actions. Karma means doing something. When this is there, I pick it up. Because it was not in my hands and it was lying there, so I picked it up. I performed this karma of picking this up and bringing it to myself. But now let me ask you, Brahman means it is everywhere. Where is it not? Since my hand was not there at that place, this object was not with me, so I could bring it here. But Brahman is everywhere. Where am I not? No karma is possible. Plus, it is not in the nature of Brahman to perform karma. Plus, there is no need because it is full. Karma arises from avidya, from incompleteness, sense of incompleteness, which is not there in Brahman. That is why Lord Krishna says, Naiva kinchit karomi. I never perform any actions. Actions are performed always by Prakruti, which means matter. Action is performed by matter, not by consciousness. Now when you know this very well, ego is no more there. Atma doesn't identify with that given ego. So what happens? That ego is not there. The person who performed action is no more available. So where did all the karmas go? All the sanchita karma which were stored in his account from beginningless time in the account of that person itself is not there. Then where will all the actions go? Gone with him. Supposing you have lots of money in your account, bank account, but you die one day. You die. You have no nominee. Now where does that money go? It goes along with you. In the government, it goes to government. Understood? Because that person is no more there to claim that money. Similarly, that ego now having gone, ego had performed. That ego is no more there in the wake of knowledge. So, with knowledge, all the sanchita karma stored in the account of the jiva goes. I will show you how even the agami, threefold actions, sanchita, agami and prarabdha. Sanchita means all that was stored. Agami means that which are done, which you keep doing and which you do even after knowledge. They also go. How? That we will see. Plus how even prarabdha, only karma which remains is prarabdha. But this jnani, this wise man, who has now knowledge of para and avara being one, has nothing to do with prarabdha. How? That we will see next time. So I will show you how all the actions, sanchita we have already understood, how even the agami goes and even prarabdha remains, but this fellow is detached. But in that sense it is said that all the actions also are destroyed, which means that he is free now, and even after the fall of the body he will be free. He will become Brahman. Brahman will remain Brahman. No more next birth for him. We will see this more next time. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.